BMW seems to want you to start taking their heritage scramblers a lot more seriously than before. Scramblers, by definition, apart from looking cool, also need to be off-road beasts. They need to feel at home on dirt as well as on the road, because taking you to faraway, inaccessible places is their life motto. And let's be serious, what sort of off-roading can you actually do with the 125mm or less than 5 inches of suspension travel the current nineT GS offers? None. That's the answer. It's like when Dave goes around to his friends and tells them he's the assistant long way home host. Assistant to the host, Dave, too. It's a very important word for you there. Welcome back to Long Way Home, everyone. The place where getting your motorcycle news is easier than KTM deciding in parts branding for the Northern 901, but not by much. BMW has been spotted testing updated versions of half of their nineT range, the Urban GS and the Scrambler versions, with quite a few mods that will make off-road riders very pleased. So if this is something that is of interest to you, stick around. Alright, so the models we're looking at here seem to be the Scrambler version and the Urban GS by looking at the headlight cowl. And considering how much BMW has concentrated on the off-road part of the nineT, I am highly expecting the Urban name to be dropped in the future. One of the biggest changes we can see are the 21-inch front wheels on both models. These seem to replace the 19 inches on the current bikes, are spoked with tubeless tires, which was also possible on the current models, but as an optional extra, and are covered in Metzeler Karoo 3 tires, which are quite aggressive off-road. Now, a 21-inch front wheel is going to make the bike a bit more awkward to handle around town, but it's a godsend for riding off-road because it goes over bumps a lot easier than a smaller wheel. Suspension as well, huge change here, 250mm or almost 10 inches both at the front and at the rear are expected for the GS version, and 220mm or 8.6 inches for the Scrambler version. This is huge. Firstly, it's a major update to suspension travel from the current model, which sits at around 125mm, 5 inches, basically half of what we're expecting on the new ones. And it's also even much longer than the big 1250 GS, which has its suspension travel at around 200mm, depending on which version you go for. So BMW really wants you to take their nineT off-road, something which with a 21-inch front wheel and huge suspension travel will now be easier than ever. Ground clearance is another change they seem to have implemented. The headers have been moved upwards and to the sides, resulting in what seems like a mile of ground clearance. Of course, I wouldn't take any of these bikes off-road without a proper skid placed, so once that is installed, the ground clearance might look a bit more natural and not make the nineT look like it's sitting on stilts. The oil cooler as well seems to be higher to protect it from any rocks and debris the front wheel might be throwing up. Beefier levers and foot pegs can also be seen, and updated seats as well, with the GS version sporting a bench style seat, which we all know a proper rally rider would never be seen without. And apart from all of these changes, to convince us even more that they really want the nineT range to be a beast off-road and not a wannabe lookalike, BMW seems to have fitted them with removable rear pegs. Because what's the point of carrying around a couple of 100 extra grams with you if you don't have a passenger? The current nineT range hovers around 210 kilograms or 460 pounds, fueled up and ready to ride, which, yes, you've guessed it, is almost exactly the same as the Tenere 700, a bike which was designed from the ground up to be an off-road monster. And the number one thing, the absolute number one factor an off-road rider looks for in a bike is weight. The less, the better. And the nineTs are sitting in a very comfortable spot regarding weight, even with the current model. If the new model doesn't add any weight or, God forbid, even reduces some, I mean, come on. I never really took the nineT range very seriously when it came to riding off-road, even if BMW said they were made for scrambling about. because of the tiny suspension travel and the tiny wheels. But with what I'm seeing in these photos, that might just change. You've got a huge 1200cc engine with great torque, 110 horsepower, BMW's great electronics, rider aids, riding modes, cornering ABS, etc., which now also sports huge suspension travel, huge ground clearance, and a 21-inch front wheel. If they price this one right, we're gonna see a lot of these on the road, in my opinion. But enough of me jabbering on. Would you buy one? If everything we see actually materializes next year, most probably not this year, and is priced decently by BMW, would you consider one of these for going around town and on dirt tracks? Let us know in the comments below. Well, that's the show for today, everyone. If you've enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up, and if you think you've learned something new, consider subscribing or becoming one of our patrons to help us make more of these shows. Cheers, and I'll see you on the next one.